Yeah. For us to get to where we want to be as a football program again, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take this football team, the coaches, the administration, our fan base. It's going to take us all to get back to where we want. But to me, that's how Florida State got here before. We all did it together. So we need it. We're going to need you all there Saturday. And we need everyone to turn up. That's it. Hey, y'all have a great night, because I am.
Hey, what's happening? What's going on? Welcome back. As you can see, I'm in a great mood. Willie Taggart is still the head football coach at Florida State University. That excites me. I'm happy about that. You know, you're going to have to wait another week to fire my man Willie T, baby. You're going to have to wait another week. You know what? I apologize. Let me take that back. Because the way them goddamn people in Tallahassee think they'll fire his ass for not reaching that hot dog quota at the concession stand at by halftime or some shit, you know. So let me take that back. I apologize. Anyway, y'all know what this is, man. If you're looking at this face and listening to this voice, you are officially on the hot seat. I'm your esteemed host, Smoke, and today we're going to talk about Florida State again. So without any further ado, paying homage to the goats over my left and my right shoulder, let's get into it. Florida State won this past Saturday, played Syracuse University. I think the final score was 35-14, 35-17, some shit like that. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the game. I think Florida State did what they were supposed to do against a really bad Syracuse team. I'll give my thoughts on a few things, but not a lot. I think the offensive line looked as good as it has looked the entire season. We saw some continuity. I was a tad bit worried about having an all-freshman left side of the offensive line, but for the most part, they held their own. Even when Brady Scott came in for Dante Lucas, they looked pretty decent. Can we get Alex Hornibrook another arm? Is that a bad idea? No, I didn't think it was. Yeah, we got to do something about that kid arm, man. He underthrew a lot of passes. Saw wild cam. Saw some wild cam. Thought that was interesting. Don't know whose idea that was, but I'm all for giving the ball to our best player as much as we possibly can. We saw Abusement Park. Did y'all see Joy Young go up and get that thing? I had saw him in the game a few times blocking and things of that nature, but see him out there getting some burn, going up and get that ball, man, giving us a glimpse of the future. That was nice to see. I'm wondering and I'm starting to become worried about not seeing Warren Thompson. We saw him early in the year. We've gone from not seeing him. We've gone from seeing him on the field to seeing him less on the field to seeing him on the sideline to seeing him on the sideline disengaged to not seeing his ass at all. And, you know, I'm not going to buy into the rumors because that's just what they are, rumors. But, you know, if he does leave the team, you got to do what's best for you. And I'm all for that. But I would much rather him stay because I think the kid is immensely talented and he would do himself a disservice by leaving the program. That's just my opinion. But that's it. That's really all I got to say about the game, man. Beat Miami week. Y'all know what it is. Don't have to hype that up. I want to get into a few things about the culture at Florida State, and just follow me. Just be patient with me. I'm gonna get somewhere, and you'll see where I'm going. I see some similarities in this season versus last season, and it kind of bothered me just because of how last season ended. So think about how embarrassed you were as a Florida State fan this season after the first game of the season and how embarrassed you were as a Florida State fan last season after the first game of the season. Looking at the hype that was surrounding this team, how Willie Taggart had done everything right up until kickoff, and you end up getting beat by 21 points to Virginia Tech at home, right? That was embarrassing. Only scoring 3 points. Florida State looked bad in that first game. Fast forward this season, you get embarrassed playing Boise State at home against a true freshman quarterback who's never started a game and blowing an 18-point lead. That's embarrassing. Last year, second game of the season, Sanford comes into Doak Campbell Stadium, scares the shit out of us. Florida State fans literally had to be shitting a golden brick by third quarter. because that team wasn't going away. And if I remember correctly, Sam had actually gotten the lead at some point. I believe I may be wrong. The game was sealed late by Levante Taylor, getting the pick six, taking it to the house. Fast forward this year, second game of the season, another lackluster opponent, ULM. Listen, man, me personally, I think if ULM makes that extra point, they end up beating Florida State. And I've told you that would have been the worst loss in program history. You look at Louisville game last year. Bobby Petrino gave us a gift. They had no business throwing that fucking football. A.J. Westbrook gets a tip, picks it off. As you know, as they say, the rest is history. DeAndre Francois finds Noonan Murray for a touchdown. Ball game, Florida State. Fast forward this year. I think that was Cyrus Fagan's first interception in the Florida State uniform. Cyrus Fagan gets an interception, helps seal the win for Florida State, get some momentum going back our way that game. Ball game, Florida State. If I remember correctly, Florida State was 4-4 after the first 8 games of the season last year, right? This year they're 4-4 after the first 8 games of the season. That's one difference. As I told y'all before, 6 out of the 7 losses Florida State had last year, they got their ass destroyed. Florida State got beat the fuck up in some of those games. You ain't even able to say that this year. If I remember correctly, Florida State has not only just been competitive, they've had the lead, and I think every fourth quarter this season, with the exception of the Clemson game. That's progress, people. Right now, in this very moment, we are immersed in the changing of the culture at Florida State. For all that's said about Willie Taggart and that staff, for all the shortcomings, for all of them not meeting our expectations, the things that needed to happen this season are happening in front of our very eyes. It's not as smooth as we'd like it to be. I'll admit that. But traction is traction. Progress is progress. And I'm not one who celebrates marginal success. That's never been an MO of mine. But understanding the clusterfuck that was Florida State at the start of last year, even up to some points, at least at the first quarter of this season, this was worse than we thought it was. The foolish penalties as it relates to personal fouls, players being immature, having bad seeds on the football field, on the football team in general. Clemson beat Florida State into submission last year. That fucking team quit at home. You saw that team fight to the last buzzer against Clemson, at Clemson. Things are starting to change, and nobody's giving Willie Taggart credit for that. And here's my disclaimer again. I am not a Willie Taggart apologist. What I do a great job of is assessing what I have in front of me. I'm not a negative Ned. If things are bad, then they're just fucking bad. Get his ass out of here. But if things aren't as bad as some people would like you to believe, then they aren't. You have to look at things at a grander scale sometimes. Sometimes you just have to pull your chair back from the table and look at things as a whole. We want progression, and albeit it's not the progression we want, it is still progression. I understand that, like, you still have the people who, some people just don't have a grip on what's going on. Oh, we Florida State. We should never lose to Clemson. No, sir. No, ma'am. We are not Florida State. We haven't been for a while. We are trying to get back to Florida State. We're trying to get back to what Florida State used to be. The Florida State we know and love. This isn't our conference anymore. It belongs to Clemson. We are trying to do our part to get it back from Clemson. Check yourself, people. Let me say this again. We are not Florida State. We are the football team formerly known as Florida State. We are just trying to get back to the promised land, which we are all used to being. You have to understand, Most of the football players on this team don't know what the fuck winning feels like at the collegiate level. Outside of a few guys who are on that 10-2 team that beat Michigan in the Orange Bowl, a lot of these guys are used to losing 6 times a season. It's just the nature of the business. At the present moment, it is. At Florida State, it is. Understand that. This thing crumbled way before Willie Taggart got here, right? We've all said that. But to see these guys competing, to see these guys working hard, to see these guys doing the right thing, to see leaders on the team stepping up, these are things we were clamoring for, and now we have them, but nobody's paying attention to it. Me being a Dallas Cowboy fan, I've had to ask people, because when Dallas Cowboy fans lose week by week, when they lose, they are just as emotional as Florida State fans. Trust me, I fucking know. I have to ask those people. Every time that the Dallas Cowboys lose, everybody automatically, easily points the finger at Jason Garrett. Well, when they win, why doesn't anybody point the finger at him then? When Florida State doesn't win, if the wind blows hard in Florida State, if a baby shits a pamper at Florida State, it's Willie Taggart's fault. If somebody blinks too goddamn loud, it's Willie Taggart's fault. Who gets the credit for the wins? Who gets the credit for turning this thing around or starting to turn this thing around? I just want to know. Maybe I'm fucking missing something. Because my biggest issue, and I've been critical of the administration, everybody knows that it's documented. My biggest issue with the administration was, outside of what I've already said, was what were they really trying to do, right? And the more I thought about it, outside of just being emotional, maybe they're just trying to prevent themselves from a Tom Herman issue. And this is what I mean. Stay with me. Tom Herman, head coach, Texas Longhorns. Y'all know Texas Longhorns, right? Okay. Texas Longhorns 5-3 right now. If I remember correctly, I think they just lost to TCU. Todd Herman hasn't lived up to them $5.2 million a year they're giving him, right? First year, 7-6. First year, right? You give him that. Second season, they had a great season last year, 10-4, and they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Let's be clear. Let's not be prisoners of the moment. That Georgia team was good as fuck last year. That Georgia team was so good, there were people lobbying to get them in the college football playoff with 2 losses. That's just how good they were. And they beat them pretty good. I don't think the score is indicative of how that game really went. Even Bebo was finna get a hold of that goddamn ugly-ass Bulldog. They kicked their ass. Expectations, and here you are, starting the season 5-3. What's going on in Texas? Because we always say give the coaches 3 years, right? This is Todd Herman's 3 years. You've had a down season. Your first season, what excuse that? You had a great season, which was last season. What are you doing right now? What have you done for me lately? Florida State, I'm assuming, just to add some type of goddamn common sense to the equation of what we had to witness last week, are you trying to prevent yourself from a Tom Herman situation? I have to ask. I have to know, is that what you're trying to stop yourself from? Waddling in mediocrity, fading into obscurity. Is that because Tom Herman really has no fucking excuse, right? And this isn't a harp on Tom Herman show. I'm not trying to do that. Honestly, I don't give a fuck. Fuck Texas. I don't care. I'm just saying he's been given all the goddamn resources he needs. Listen, we know Texas money long as a motherfucker. Like, there's money and there's oil money. This is the same goddamn Texas Longhorns that were rumored to have offered or were going to offer Nick Saban $100 million. Money is no object to them. They got their own goddamn network. As much as we talk about the bad quarterback situation at Florida State, hey, you recruited Sam Ehlinger. You had your quarterback the moment you stepped on campus. That was your guy. And what are you doing with him? People are afraid that he's making Texas mediocre. And he was the golden boy. Well, in come Willie Taggart, the golden boy. Probably not the chosen one, but definitely the golden boy, because the honeymoon, from the time he started right before the kickoff at Virginia Tech, he could do no fucking wrong. Woo, man. Willie Taggart didn't fucking miss. Well, what are you afraid of? Are you saying that Willie Taggart is just going to keep this team average? And we all fucking know Florida State fans are average. I'm sorry, Florida State fans are spoiled. They're not finna deal with no fucking average. You can get your ass out of here with this average talk. No, sir. We're not dealing with this shit. We're used to being top 5 team, 10 double-digit win team every goddamn year. And we will not change. Right? Is that what you're afraid of? That Willie Taggart is an average coach, so he's going to produce an average product? I have to fucking next. I have to know. I have to find reason behind the attack. Cause that's what the fuck this was. It was an emotional attack. I have to know. Because if you're not going to give this man 3 years, because truth be told, I've heard that if he wins the next 4 out of 5 games, 3 out, well, fuck many games left, that he's good. My personal opinion, if he don't make it out of Miami, he's a sitting duck. That's my personal opinion. But at the very least, he still be gone too soon. Like I told y'all, we're going to keep y'all that long. I think that this is the most important stretch run for Florida State that we've seen here in the last, in a while. You got Miami coming up. You got Boston College after that. You got Alabama State after that. You got Florida after that. If Florida State is truly making traction like I'm saying they will, if Florida State is truly making traction like I'm saying they are, we're going to find out in these next 4 games. Not that they've turned a corner, but if this progress they're making is going to manifest itself, we're going to see it in these next 4 games. Because for all right that Florida State is doing, all things that they're changing, there's still some bad shit going on. Like, the product on the field isn't. Here's an example. Florida State go up first quarter 14, and then the goddamn offense disappears. Why are there so many gaps in productivity on the offensive end? Defense will come out fired up, and they'll have like a mental lapse here and there, right? Like, because you see they're starting to get it together. Not even just the players, but the coaches. Like, it's simple stuff like, we have trouble getting pressure to the quarterback. Well, how do you circumvent that? You don't. You start blitzing. Shit. You see them right now, I would say last few weeks, with the exception of the Wake Forest game, of course, they're starting to scheme and use Hamza Nasruddin the way we hoped Charles Kelly would have done with Derwin James. Like, they are doing a great job putting him on both sides of the field. Putting him on both sides of the hashes, putting him at the line of scrimmage, blitzing him, using his athleticism, using his football IQ, using his knack for just finding people with the football. This is exactly what we wanted Charles Kelly to do. And I'm not even just speaking about the defense progressing every week, because they are getting better. They are understanding their gap fits. They are understanding things schematically better than what they were 4 or 5 weeks ago. If all of this stuff, what we're seeing, is legit, we're going to see it in these next 4 weeks. Because truth be told, they should beat Miami. Truth be told, they should beat Boston College. They should probably beat Boston College handedly, because Boston College isn't a good football team this year. They should definitely beat Alabama State. Florida, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we're going to find out who this team is and what they're really made of. Because, hey, like I pointed out to y'all, the same team that we saw last year isn't the same team that we see this year around this time. They were 4-4 last year. They were limping into the ninth game or whomever the ninth game on the schedule was last year. This team has some confidence. This team seems to be doing things right. But like I told you, we still haven't seen a crisp team. This is probably the closest we've seen Florida State put together 4 quarters of football. And it still didn't look good. Like, we were still like, because we still leave points on the table, right? We still have lapses. We still have mental lapses on defense, right? And again, I'm not being a negative Nate. I'm just pointing out some things that I've observed here over the last few weeks. If Willie Taggart is truly on the right path to getting this team where we wanted to go, to seeing some actual traction, we about to find out. And I think this Miami game is a great starting point, because I've told y'all twice before about how he almost got fired at South Florida, University of South Florida. It was against Syracuse where he turned things around. Maybe lightning strikes twice. Maybe the Syracuse game this year is what he need to get people off his ass. Because what are you afraid he's going to turn into? He's either going to be Tom Herman or he could be Dabo Swinney. I'm not comparing him to him. What I'm telling you is they were patient with Dabo, and look how the fuck that turned out. He has a trajectory of going either way. Well, this situation has a potential of going either way. Because I personally believe that he has Dabo-like potential, meaning being a CEO, having the right people around him, and running a program. You're starting to see moments of that now. You've seen moments of it in the last few weeks. Or he could be Tom Herman and just blow smoke up your ass to start every season, have you stupid hype ready for the season start, only to lay egg after egg after egg. Texas kept up with LSU, and they were at home. They made their defense and LSU look average. They lost that game. They lost neutral site. Well, close thing you can get to a neutral site game because they were still in Texas. Lost against Oklahoma. Rivalry game, I get it. They shouldn't have lost to TCU. I don't give a good goddamn what the motherfucking game was played at. Shouldn't have lost to TCU. Southern False Hope. Dabo, rough couple of first years, right? They hired a wide receiver coach. Who the fuck hires a wide receiver coach? But they stuck with him. Asked him what he needed, gave it to him, and look what happened. Willie Taggart has the same goddamn potential to me. You can call me wrong, give a shit. Call me wrong all the fuck you want. I'm fine with it. We about to find out though, and if I am wrong, won't be the first time I've been wrong. Won't be the last. Just telling you what I think and how I believe and what I believe. Before I get y'all out of here, there's a guy. He left a comment under the video last week, and I'll show you the comment. His name was Josh Weaver. Josh Weaver, if you're watching, first of all, thank you for watching. Secondly, I wasn't able to reply to that message, and I'm not sure why, but the message basically said that you are a Florida State booster, and all Willie Taggart needs is one more loss, and he won't make it out of the goddamn office that evening or whenever the loss happens, right? I want to have a conversation with you. Something civil, it can be public, like we can have a conversation up under this video, or we can inbox each other. I don't care. I just want to have a conversation with you. Doesn't have to be long. It won't leave the confines of whatever walls you like to have that conversation in, but I would really like to know what goes through the mind of a booster. If what you're saying is true, even if you are a booster, right? I don't know if you are, if you aren't. You could just be a troll. I don't know. But let's just say you are. You say that Willie Taggart has one more game and he gone. Why one more game? Because if he's not the guy, he's not the fucking guy. You follow me? One more game, one more loss this season isn't going to tell you whether he is the guy or whether he isn't the guy. So why wait one more game? Is this a PR ploy? Because if you fire Willie Taggart today, you understand how bad that looks on the program. And more importantly, there are going to be people who you're going to vet. You're going to send them through the vetting process. And there may be some high-profile names. Who the fuck would want to come to Florida State after you just gave a head coach a year and a half to fix what was known as a fucking atomic bomb hit the program behind the scenes. Things, I can't say this enough, things were way worse than what we thought. You gave a man a year and a half to fix this. So again, if you have a top tier coach in mind, and even if Coburn's saying they're not looking at Urban Meyer, why in the hell wouldn't you? You're Florida State, remember? Why wouldn't you target a Urban Meyer? Bob Stoops, a big name coach. Because if you can fork over $18 to get rid of his ass, pretty sure you can fork over $8 million to go after a guy like Urban Meyer, right? But why in the hell would he come here? So I would have to ask you, are you playing with us? Are you playing with him? Like, is it just that you didn't have a contingency plan pieced together by the time you were going to let him go? Like, what are your expectations truly? Do you all have a good grip on football? Do you all understand football? Do you all understand how long it takes to change a culture? Have you truly given him the backing he needs to be successful? If this is Florida State, if this is indeed the program that you think it is, what are you doing to help him and not hurt him? These are just some questions I have for you. So if anybody out there knows Josh Weaver, tell him to come talk to me. I got a boatload of questions for him. We need to have a civil conversation, my friend. That's all the time I'm giving you. That's all the fucking time I got. As always, I appreciate you all listening to these. Watching these videos. Hit those like buttons for me. Hit those subscribe buttons for me. If you leave a comment under here, I promise I'm going to get back to you. If I don't, blame my head and not my heart. If you take your time out to talk to me, I'm definitely going to take my time out to reply to you, man. You can follow me on Twitter at the Hot Seat 19. You can follow me on Instagram at the Hot Seat 19. I will see y'all soon. Until next time, y'all be good.